Mercy is one of those January movies that you just don't believe exists until you're actually seated to watch it, let alone it getting an IMAX release. My bar for this movie was an absolute hell, but to my surprise, it's not even in contention for the worst movie of the year. In the near future, a detective stands on trial accused of murdering his wife. He has 90 minutes to prove his innocence to an AI judge he once championed for before it determines his fate. The film stars Chris Pratt and Rebecca Ferguson, and I think they are both really good. Chris Pratt's performance in the first half of the movie, after dealing with the instant repercussions of his wife's death, is really interesting. But as the film goes on, I find both performances just got more and more stale / regular, because it was more so the mystery unfolding and not necessarily them doing actions. It was kind of just discovering different things going on. Rebecca Ferguson is miles ahead of Chris Pratt in this, in my opinion, but she also just has a little bit more to work with in terms of like an AI character that has a little bit more depth, trying to understand humanity. With the expansion of mystery throughout the film is where I think this film is at its best, because it is a really solid thriller. I don't know if the package is the best, as this is kind of leaning into a screen life type of movie, something like Missing or Searching. It obviously takes a way bigger blockbuster approach to that, but I really did just like the mystery, the twists, the turns, a lot of the character reveals and the execution of past things that characters have done leading into the present, obviously big mystery action moments. It is a really good blend of this contained 1 versus 1 AI versus police officer story, and then also this bigger, grander, trying to change the scheme of police and I guess AI, courts, and justice, all of these thematic ideas. It blends them well together. Going back to the screen life movie thing, I think is the biggest flaw, but also the coolest thing about the movie to an extent, because my biggest reservation is just the fact that this film has such a like brain rot TikTok speed to it, and I think it's because of the screen life aspect to it. There's just so much going on on the screen at once. They have this 90-minute crunch time before the execution would actually take place, and so there's constantly just things going around. I get it for the story's sake, but there is zero time to breathe throughout the entire film, which again makes the hour 45 go by really fast, but at what cost? There is little to no emotional stakes, because also the performances have no time to actually marinate within thematic and character ideas. It is this weirdly consistent flow state of processed filmmaking, but I think it just doesn't work because there's no breaks in it. I saw this film in 3D, and a lot of the expositional moments are baked into the technology that Chris Pratt's character is kind of experiencing in this near future AI thing, kind of fully surrounding him. The sounds, the technical elements, we'll talk more about that later. It's all really good. I really liked the 3D in this film. It's one of those few films in recent years, like I'm not putting on the level of Avatar, but it's one of the few films that I would say actually is affected positively by 3D. But back to my original point, since it's all in that style of flowing technology and these little widget bubbles all around you, it's just constantly moving so fast. One thing I noticed was there is like this inherent camera shake filter over every single shot. Even if it's a very slow pan in, something is shaking for some reason. The pacing is just so fast. I don't know why they did that. I mean, I kind of do, because the story is not inherently that interesting. You just get very overly stressed out and overstimulated by everything going on, so you're just inherently more focused on it. But I think this is a really good, big blockbuster take on the entire movie takes place on a screen-esque idea. I'm at a bit of a crossroads with this film, because at times with the action and the scale of like big AI city storytelling, it does feel like it's warranted to be seen in a theater. But on the other side of it, the flow is just so fast, it feels like a movie you'd turn on Netflix and you wouldn't even realize that the movie's done. Like I mentioned earlier, technically this film is really cool. The 3D is worth seeing in theaters for sure. The score is really good. It's this really cool techno-futuristic idea that, again, it's very common to this type of genre, but I just think it works in a different type of technical wrapping of this film, all taking place on technology-based things. And thirdly, almost every every single big aspect of this film is CGI. Obviously, they had practical lighting on characters, but they're almost always surrounded by some level of technology, which I found to be a really fascinating storytelling method. Technically, this is consistently a really good film, but I think thematically is where it's a really mixed bag for me. With Chris Pratt specifically, he's like one of the most publicly perceived popular right-wing leaning blockbuster 1A men right now, especially one that hasn't really been affected by his political leaning, publicly at least. That doesn't really change my perception on him as an actor. So I'm not saying it like that, because there's certain projects I like and certain that I don't like. But I find it hilarious that he's in this movie specifically, because from the trailers, it seemed like a very anti-AI, trust the human soul's judgment and justice type of movie. When in the political landscape of things in this current moment, AI propaganda, police brutality and violence, and using AI to incite all of those types of things is all on the rise through policies from that side of the current political spectrum. I find these two things coexisting to be really weird because of the current political spectrum. It's not necessarily him as an actor or him as a person, but just these two things being combined is weird to me. And people can say it's just a movie, but it's not. It is a very important current modern idea and problem that he is a part of this movie for. And for most of the runtime, I was very confused. Why would Chris Pratt be in a movie like this? But then the ending of the film kind of backtracks on most of what this film is talking about in terms of humanity versus AI. It tries to balance out the idea that humans make mistakes and AI make mistakes. And it's literally one or two lines at the end of this film that really just threw me for a loop on the thematic ideas present throughout the entirety of the movie, because it just doesn't make sense based on everything that we've seen. A movie can be thematically inconsistent, but I think when it just throws something in at the very, very end, that's when it really confuses me. Overall, I'm going to give Mercy a 7 out of 10. If you see watching out this film, let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.